Well, hello, very good day to you. Welcome to Kenya's most comprehensive political analysis show here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Evan Sokinyi. It's a pleasure to have you on board. Of course, as usual, we are monitoring the situation on the ground with regards to the political stuff taking place in this country. And of course, I'm joined by Professor Herman Manyora. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. Good.
We are here. We're waiting for what is taking place at the bomas of Kenya. But of course, some thing that is actually coming out is that a number of elites or a number of people from the larger gamer community, rather Mount Kenya region, totally want the government to try and stop interfering with the Jubilee Party. Of course, we've seen all these things take place with the party, and a number of people are saying that the party is as good as dead. But then tell me, since independence up to now, where does the Mount Kenya region now find itself? In which situation do they find themselves right now that, owing to the fact that they do not have a stronger party that would perhaps speak for the people therein?
Yeah, I listened to a presentation at Bomas from lawyer Kibe Mwegai.
Yes.
He argues that an affront on Jubilee is one way of making sure that Mount Kenya for the first time does not have a voice. It made a lot of sense. And I think the onslaught on Jubilee must be understood in that context. I think some people feel Mount Kenya will be compliant and follow them because they have no party. They have no party and therefore they have no leadership. That, I would advise them, is cheap thinking. Yeah, because it will not work for them. In fact, it's better if the Mount Kenya people have their party.
Okay.
You can approach them in a structured manner to work with them. Than if you think you can destroy their party and disenfranchise them, scatter them. I think that strategy won't work. Yeah.
But Prof, we've got the United Democratic Alliance Party here in, of course, let me say for the Central Kenya region, perhaps is headed by the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Do you then think that the UDA as a party cannot actually speak for the people of Mount Kenya right now?
Knowing the architecture of our politics, knowing how parties operate in this country, parties first are owned by individuals, people we call kingpins, the major parties. Secondly, they represent the interests, if you wish, in quotes, of certain regions and certain communities, certain tribes. So if you are to read this politics in that manner, and I don't think it has changed, much as some people want to convince us it has changed, I still think it hasn't changed. So ODM may have representation, and indeed it has representation across the country, but it's basically a Nyanza party. You say the same of Wiper. Kalonzo Musyoka and other fellows would want to make a lot of noise about Wiper being a national party, but it's a Ukambani party. And you can say the same of UDA is a Rift Valley party. There's no way UDA can cross over, cross mountains and rivers and valleys and land on the mountain and say it's a mountain party. That we haven't reached there as a country. We haven't.
Is it true that UDA is a Rift Valley party?
Yeah.
Owing to the fact that, of course, it didn't even begin
no, nobody should come with the nonsense of, oh, it is across the country. But ODM, Raila's parties have always been across the country.
But the UDA party has got its roots all the way from Ukambani. You've got Johnson Muthama there.
No. But ODM has people everywhere. Jubilee has had people everywhere. PNU had people everywhere. But the truth which every Kenyan will tell you is that UDA is a Kalenjin party. And if you want to know what I'm saying, is to look at how the Kalenjin defend the president and the party. When Malala speaks, you can see it's just like a young man speaking. He doesn't have the stature of a Secretary General. But if he had been a Kalenjin, you would have seen it. Look at NC. Mudavadi may want to say, oh, there's Riot Imami of Lamu, but it's a Luya party. A Vihiga party, in fact. So, Ford Kenya, they can argue we have, no. It's just a Luya Bungoma Transoya party. That's the truth. And you can measure it in many ways. Yeah.
The Deputy President said very well that he understands his role in this government, and he says that one role is to deputize actually the President. The other role is to speak for the people of the mountain. Would it be completely out of touch for someone to reason that now that the central region do not have such kind of a formidable political party, then they might actually lag behind in terms of representation and all that?
There's a way in which that is true, because you use this forum to fight for your people, if you can call what they do fighting for the people. So there's a way in which, without a political party, the people of Mount Kenya will feel naked and in the cold. Yes.
So you think that as it is right now, UDA cannot actually structure and represent them well with regards, in as much as they are a very big major stakeholders, if at all. Let me talk of shareholders, of course, because that term has been used times without number by the Deputy President. Wouldn't you then think that it's actually the right move for them?
I don't know. I really don't know. But I think it will be very difficult for Rigathi Gachagua, operating within the confines of UDA, to fully occupy the seat of Mount Kenya leader. The people of Mount Kenya will feel he's an appendage of another stronger party, UDA, and therefore not quite suitable to represent their interests. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's look at this.
Because he's sharing a seat with somebody, an outsider. So the outsider is seated firmly. You are sitting on the edges of the seat, and you are claiming you want to be the kingpin. The people of Mount Kenya will find it very difficult to see Rigathi Gachagua as their representative. Yeah.
It's not the first time that we're actually witnessing a merger between the two political regions, of course, that is the Rift Valley and the Central Kenya region. Of course, in the past 10 years, we also had Jubilee. Jubilee had its roots in the mountain as well as the Rift Valley region. So my question would be, why, for those who are questioning UDA's ability to represent the interests of the Central Kenya region, what would be so different with what we witnessed in the past?
There will be nothing different. Exactly what you are saying is should be proving my point right, and those people are also right. How well represented was Rift Valley in Jubilee? After the complete merger, URP, TNA, and the rest to form Jubilee, it did not take long for the Rift Valley people to see that they were not part of that house. It didn't take long. And eventually they were evicted. They're only lucky that Ruto became president, but they had been evicted. So what do you think, what makes you think the people of Mount Kenya cannot be apprehensive? They will be, because they understand this is Kenya. Yeah. And look here, there is talk that once President Ruto has a sort of constructive engagement, positive engagement with Raila Odinga, he may not need Mount Kenya as much as he needs Mount Kenya today. Yeah. Once Raila is no longer on his neck, they have some working arrangement. Maybe Raila has become leader of opposition or something like that. He may not need Mount Kenya as much as he needs them. Indeed, he could settle on Musalia Mudavadi as his running mate in 2027. So Mount Kenya is justified to be apprehensive. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, the idea of settling on Musalia Mudavadi
is a very serious possibility. Because supposing there is this quiet in Mount Kenya, which is evident now, the murmurs and the divisions, the apprehension in Mount Kenya, supposing it results in a situation where the president can actually see the mountain is not as united as it was behind him in 2022. And remember, even in 2022, about 1 million votes went to Raila Odinga. Supposing the president sees this time a Mount Kenya politician can walk away with 30-40% of the votes, Musalia Mudavadi will be the most attractive running mate, because then he will come with the entire Luhya vote, especially if Raila is not running. Yeah.
Definitely, Prof. If I get you right, well, right now as we talk, definitely all the governors, if I'm not wrong, from the Central Kenya region are of the UDA party, they're in. And of course, in as much as people tend to claim, or rather they were trying to say, do you then think that despite them having, or rather being major shareholders in this government right now, they still feel that cold?
They could feel the cold because, you see, in somebody's house, you can never quite sit pretty. There's always that feeling that you are an outsider in somebody's house. You can't feel as comfortable in somebody's house as you feel in your own house. So these Mount Kenya politicians, including the governors, they can see the games. Let me tell you, those around the president will tell you if they are honest. They are not as welcome as the Kamwenes of Rift Valley are welcome. If you are Mutai, it's called Mutai Kahiga, Nyeri governor, you are in State House or around State House or around Power or some state lodge, and somebody like Murkomen comes along, or a governor like Sang from Nandi or whatever, you can feel something, you can sense. You know, as a human being, God has given the ability to sense and feel things. They are written, they are, you know, body language and everything else. You can feel you're a lesser person than the other guy who has now walked in. The place lights up when some guys are around power, as opposed to when you and you can see it. And these things affect us. We are human beings. Yeah.
Well, in as much as there are a number of political parties in the central region, but of course Jubilee still, perhaps let's just talk of live parties. We would talk about Jubilee therein. But of course, with the recent functions and of course with recent happenings in the country with regards to these political moves, we've got now Sabina Chege being in charge therein. I wonder whether that is also settled at the same time. But then, what would you make of the president's now decision, or rather, what is his intention of trying to actually make sure that the entire region is polarized and galvanized towards making one formidable political party, that is UDA, and if at all it would surface, if at all he had left Jubilee to thrive on its own, vis-a-vis trying to make the entire Mount Kenya region be united under one party, what do you think the president would actually gain from these two sides?
Nothing. Nothing. I'll tell you this. You know, we know how power works. If you are in the State House, you are a powerful Mount Kenya leader. You will notice that when Murkomen is around the president, or my friend Ketel of Kericho, not Ketel, Chariot, you will notice something. You will notice. It happens. You could have been very big in Uhuru's government, but when some fellows were there, you could notice some. You see it. You see the change. You notice something. You can never be quite an insider. But that's how politics is. You may not quite act on the basis of that and maybe rebel or leave, but you can't fail to notice. And it is that leads me to conclude that any attempt to deliberately, consciously be seen to be fighting the only major party from Mount Kenya, which is Jubilee, would be counterproductive to William Ruto. You see, those things, those nuances I'm talking about, those things you can't touch, but you can know they are there. You can see. You can't see, but you can see. You can't touch, but you can. They are there. There's some sense in you that tells you in this room, when so and so talks, you can see the undivided attention from the president. You know, these are things you can't conceal them. And you know when somebody is in State House with the president, even without being in that room, you can feel it is not like when you are in that room yourself. You leave the room and somebody else enters. Something tells you, some sixth sense, matters being discussed now between Ruto and the Murkomen are far deeper than he was discussing with me as Gachagua. This is politics. It happens everywhere. And hence the concept of kitchen cabinet. Yeah. When the people have talked, others wanakaa tena. Even among the Gikuyu community. When the visitors have gone, the owners of the house say, songeni tuongee sasa, and then they eat that car and then get twari, that kind of thing. So because of that, that silent, subtle alienation is blown out of proportion and achieves other meanings the moment you are seen to be fighting Jubilee, if you are root. Because you will not manage to conceal the fact that UDA and the state power has its owners who taste the top cream. You will not manage to conceal. You cannot, in your actions, deliberate in your appointments, whom you give key parastatals, whom you give key ministries, who you make principal secretaries in treasury, where you will not conceal the fact that your presidency has certain honors. And it's a global problem. It's a global issue. There is ethnicity. There are ethnicities. Ethnicity is not about tribe alone. It's about certain people who defined in a certain way are closer to the president and to power than others. So when this is clearly so in Kenya, and the people also feel they gave you the presidency, without them you could not have gotten, and yet they can see they are not quite inside the government. They know they are not fools. Unless you are telling me they are fools, they would see. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then you touch their party, the only party, serious party they have. You are going to be the loser.
No. Let's look at this profile as we wind up this show. We are looking at a number of vibrant young leaders who are actually cropping up from the Mount Kenya region. But of course, Rigathi Gachagua is also there as the deputy president in this country. Now, where does this actually now leave them? Do you think that it would be proper for them to perhaps break away and form their own political party, or rather strengthen Jubilee, through which they could actually offer some sort of voice to the community and have some sort of a bargaining chip when it comes to the national politics in the country?
Let me tell you this. With the time, even those who have refused to see will accept, and they will see and they will accept that they are not completely members of UDA. They are outsiders in UDA. They will see it. A number of combination of things. The president, I'm sure, will soon move to reshuffle his government, to make changes in his government, because he has to do that. And some of those moves will leave no doubt. And some of those people who thought they were not touchable, those are people who thought they are the ones who made Ruto, they'll begin to see. And with the time, and not so long from now, there's going to be a strong presence of Kikuyu leadership, Mount Kenya leadership, that will come out and not necessarily fight UDA and the president, but try to have their own voice. And as politics works where there are no permanent enemies and no permanent friends, but interests, you'll find some of these voices, like I've said before, working with Uhuru Kenyatta and other such forces. And what will be when the outcome can shake the country.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's wait and see what will actually unfold in the coming days. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, remember our team is always focused here, and we are on the ground, ready to bring you up to date with comprehensive analysis of everything taking place in this country and abroad. Stay tuned to some of our programs that will be coming up next. Jadiel Kabiro as well as Richard Mwenje are always here to keep you updated with everything taking place in this country. Till we have this conversation again, have yourself a lovely day. But before that, please do weigh in on this conversation and tell us what you think about the kind of message that we are receiving from the mountain. Do you think that they feel out of government, or are they still major shareholders, as the deputy president, of course, as always opined? Until we have this conversation again, have yourself a lovely day. My name is Evans.